How can the Knicks get back on track against the Bucks? Can they stop Giannis and Damian Lillard from going off? And is Mikal Bridges up to that assignment on Damian Lillard? Coming up right now on Locked On Knicks.
You are Locked On Knicks, your daily New York Knicks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
All right, welcome in to Locked On Knicks. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. And your favorite podcast now has a newsletter introducing the Locked On Knicks Daily Newsletter. One stop for the ultimate team and league coverage delivered right to your inbox. Sign up for free now at LockedOnDaily.com. That's LockedOnDaily.com and start your day with the all-new free Locked On Knicks newsletter. And, of course, make sure you hit that auto-download function or notification bell on your favorite podcast app or YouTube so you never miss an episode here on the pod side as well. I'm Alex Wolf. I'm editor-in-chief of Knicks site, The Strickland, which you can find at strict.land. And today I wanted to preview tonight's matchup against the Bucks because I think this one is going to be pretty big for both teams. The Bucks, if you think the Knicks have had sort of a rough start to the season, the Bucks have had a way tougher start to the season, 2-6 so far, which relative to expectations, pretty tough way to start the season. Considering that this is a team that's coming into their second year with this core. They seem to have made some good additions in the offseason. I know I praised them all offseason for getting Gary Trent Jr. on a minimum contract. So far, he looks worth about that, which I'll get to in a minute. But, you don't want to certainly I could see a world where this is the game where he just goes off and figures things out because it's the Knicks and that's how the luck has been going lately. But I figured I would look at some of the statistical trends with the Bucks so far. I think that considering the score has been together for a while, we kind of all know how they're trying to play together regardless. It's very very Giannis and Dame centric. They're going to want to get Giannis Antetokounmpo, Damian Lillard as many, opportunities to score the ball as they can, and then just sort of kick out the shooters otherwise. In theory, this is sort of a team that if it was working exactly how it should be almost a blueprint for how the Knicks should operate in the sense of like you want to just be having Jalen Brunson and Karl-Anthony Towns as your primary scorers, and then leaning on a bunch of other guys to make make the open 3-pointers, occasionally create other shots, whatever. Mikal Bridges in this scenario would be the Chris Middleton if the Bucks were fully healthy, which they are currently not. So anyway, I figured I'd start getting into some keys that I have for this game, and more aiming at how the Knicks should stop the Bucks more so than how they should score against them, because I think that how the Knicks should score is pretty easy to figure out. I mean, even though it hasn't exactly looked that way for them, I think it's sort of what I just mentioned. And, I will bring this up in like the third segment, a little bit of a matchup that I hope that they attack and can hopefully create some advantages for themselves. But I think Giannis and Dame are the two, big points of this. And the Knicks defense so far has been their weakest point, I would say. I think that, if you're considering like offense, rebounding, defense to be like the three core tenets of what the Knicks do under Tibbs, the offense so far has been pretty darn good, all things considered. The defense, really not good, all things considered. And then the rebounding getting better. I think they're starting to figure that out as time goes on. But defensively, one of the things that I noticed when I was just looking over some numbers for the Bucks here, you don't want to let Giannis Antetokounmpo live at the free throw line. I think that is something that's going to inevitably happen some. He is currently 100th percentile in shooting foul percentage per cleaning the glass for forwards at 24.9%. So that means that 1 in every 4 shots that Giannis takes, he gets to the free throw line, which is a huge percentage. You need to look to quell that. You need to look to make sure that he is not getting to the line that often. I think that all that serves to do, you give him a chance to get free points at the line. You slow down things for the Knicks, which like we should know at this point, you don't want things to get any slower for the New York Knicks at this point this season. They just have struggled so mightily with, I think, generating any sort of pace or any sort of quick, quick trigger offense. I think I saw a stat from, I want to say it was James Edwards tweeted this the other day about how the Knicks are actually nearly tops in the league, or if not top, then like second in the league in shots inside of set, like from like 7 to 4 seconds on the shot clock, and then from 4 seconds to no seconds on the shot clock. They are first in that first category and second in the second category in the NBA this season so far. So really not ideal. I mean, they're taking way too long to set their offense up and everything else. If Giannis starts just drawing flat fouls and turning this into a slog, I get the feeling that the Knicks are also going to be like, oh, well, we can draw fouls too. And that's all they're going to be trying to attempt to do, which I don't think is how they find their best version of themselves. I guess the counterpoint to this of not wanting to put Giannis on the line is that he's only shooting 55% at the free throw line so far this year. But I still think it would be best to try to avoid getting someone like OG Anunoby in foul trouble with how short Tibbs is making the rotation right now. I think that OG will probably be the guy that draws the honest assignment in this one. I think that they're going to want him one-on-one with him, and then, have Cat on Brooke Lopez. And then I'll get into the rest of the matchups in a minute, because I kind of have it as another point uh, down the line here in this episode. But, I think you want to avoid getting someone like OG in foul trouble, certainly, because he's going to be really key to this game. If he could play clean defense on Giannis and keep him, a little bit under control, I think that totally changes this game for the Knicks, because Giannis is back to his ways of scoring like 30 points a game again. He's just a transcendent player. But I also will say, if you are going to foul him, in that case, I think you're going to have to really make it worth it. So another crazy stat for Giannis. So 33% of the time that he draws a foul, he makes an and one, according to Clean the Glass. So if you do the math of 1 in every 4 times he takes a shot, he gets fouled. 1 in every 3 times that he gets fouled, he makes the shot. I believe, I'm not a math major, but that means that 1 of every 12 times he takes a shot, he's making an and one, which is a lot. That probably means that you're looking at 2, potentially 3 and ones a game for him, because he's going to take like 25 shots in any given game. He's number one in usage. He's going to be leaned on by the Bucks. So I think you've got to make sure that if you are going to foul him, at least make it worth it. Get a good hand on his arm or something. Like, make the fouls intentional. Don't make them unintentional. I think that would be my approach with Giannis in this game. Foul him if he gets by you and it's like, okay, this is about to be a guaranteed layup. Hack at those arms. Make sure that he can't get a shot off clean. Make sure he has to earn both points at the free throw line. You can't have him finishing through contact and getting and ones in this game, or it's gonna get ugly really fast. I think that is the way that you lose this game and completely blow any opportunity of getting your season back on track here after your first back-to-back losses in the OG Anunoby era. I mentioned his usage. His usage is also 100th percentile for forwards this year. It's north of 36%, which is crazy. He basically just is the offense for the Bucks. So I think as much as you can either bottle him up or force the ball out of his hands and try to double smartly, I think you've got to do that. I think the doubling smartly has been a little bit of an issue for the Knicks so far this year. We've seen a number of times where they double, and it's, I think, the right call to double, and yet then there's just not, the communication just isn't there yet with everybody else on the floor. So the other 3 guys on the floor are not communicating properly with how to rotate, who they should be on in the case of that double, where they need to be to make sure that, the other team is not going to just generate an easy 3 or an easy cut for a hoop or whatever out of that double team. They're just not quite there yet. I think what's going to end up having to happen, if you're going to double Giannis, it'll probably be Josh Hart coming over to double him. And then, or maybe Jalen Brunson, just to try to get a swipe on the ball, because he's fairly good at that. You're going to have that happen. And then the main thing that's going to need to happen is you're just going to need to be aware of where every other shooter is on the floor. And if it's OG doing the doubling, have Mikal, know that he has to kind of play safety there and be the guy to potentially get his arm out there and get a hand on a ball and generate a turnover that way if they try a cross-court pass or something like that. I think that's going to have to be a big thing. Although I'm going to talk more about Mikal in a second, and the fact that I think he's going to have easily the most important assignment, I think, in this game, given what his performance has been so far this year. Another thing with Giannis that I was noticing while I was looking through his stats, he seems to have basically abandoned the three this year. So I think you can pretty much dare him to take a three at any time. He's only taken 0.4 attempts per game right now, and he hasn't made a single three this year. And I think when I was looking at his game log, he hasn't even attempted a three in like 4 games. So he clearly is not feeling confident in that aspect of his game right now. He also has 6 offensive boards in each of his last 2 games, so 12 offensive rebounds in his last 2 games. Clearly a point of emphasis that they're trying to get him under the hoop and take advantage of the fact that he's one of the strongest players in the NBA. You can't let him get those. I mean, that's going to be on some combo of Cat and probably Josh Hart to make it so that he cannot get those rebounds. I mean, you're going to have to just get a body on him, swoop in, grab them out of his hands, Josh Hart style. I mean, even on OG, I think it's going to be on OG a bit to box him out and make sure that he's not getting these rebounds. Even force him to foul you to try to get a rebound. Like get good enough positioning that he has to go over the back or whatever to get it and generate a foul call that way. But either way, I think you got to watch him on the offensive glass. That's going to be key to keeping him under control in this game. But another guy that needs to be kept under control is Damian Lillard. I think that's going to fall on Mikal Bridges. So I want to talk about that in just a second. But first, I got to let you know about our friends over at Skims. And let me tell you, I was a little surprised to figure out that Skims makes men's underwear. I, in my head, had just envisioned them as a women's underwear brand, I guess, because of the association with Kim Kardashian and all that. I don't know. I thought that was just what they did. And yet, I was given the opportunity for the podcast here to try some of these underwear out, and I got to say I was really impressed with them. I wound up getting the 5-inch stretch boxer brief and the 3-inch stretch boxer brief, and let me say first, like I thought I would like the 5-inch. That's traditionally the boxer inseam that I've had in the past, and I will say like the 5-inch ones are super comfortable. I found them to be really nice. The material is like a modal blend. Really, really nice there. I very much enjoyed them. I find that they're very good for if you're being active, like if you're going to play basketball or go to the gym and, run on the treadmill or whatever. They don't ride up very much, which is great. They're very comfortable in that respect. But the 3-inch ones took me by surprise. I thought that would be a little too small. I thought that I would be, feeling a little cramped in those. And yet it's just a very nice inseam. It sits at a very good point on your leg. I find it's very comfortable. They don't ride up at all, which I was also worried about. Like with the shorter boxer, there would be, you know, more ability for it to ride up. Totally doesn't do that. So I've been really enjoying them. Honestly, they've been probably the most comfortable boxers I've ever worn. So if that's not enough endorsement, I don't know what is. So hopefully that speaks enough to what I think about them. So you can shop Skims Men's at skims.com. Just let them know we sent you after you place your order. Select podcast in the survey and select our show in the drop down menu that follows. And if you're looking for the perfect gift for the whole family, Skims just launched their biggest holiday shop ever, also available at skims.com. All right, and I'm back in to keep previewing the Knicks Bucks matchup here, the first one of the year. And both teams definitely uh reeling a little bit right now. I mean, the Knicks again, first back-to-back losses since in the OG Anunoby era where OG is playing, their first back-to-back losses. So, and he's been playing fantastic lately. So I guess that kind of speaks to the overall status of the team right now that they've managed to lose 2 straight. And then the Bucks, obviously 2-6, have had some real heartbreakers to start this season. A lot of single possession losses down the stretch of games. Seem to be getting their stuff back on track in their last game, so against the Jazz. So it might not work out great for the Knicks in that regard, but we'll see. I think one of the second biggest thing that I think that they need to do, other than Giannis, obviously, is don't let Damian Lillard get going. And it's easier said than done, obviously. But a very nice little concerning stat here. Damian Lillard shot 27% from 3 over the Bucks' first 5 games this year. In his last 4 games, he's shooting 54% on almost 12 attempts per game, which is crazy. So he clearly is cooking right now. It is Dame time. Full on, full stop, Dame time right now. And you do not want to run into that buzzsaw and let him start going off and then let that make you start scrambling and then allow Giannis to operate, in an easier fashion. You don't want any of that. That's not great if you're the Knicks. So I think this is going to be a pretty enormous task for Mikal Bridges, who's going to need to bring his A1 stuff to this game. I don't think that he can be dying on screens like he has been so far this year. I don't think he could be playing some of the more lackadaisical D that we've been seeing out of him this year, or the Knicks are just going to get destroyed by Damian Lillard. So I really think that we're going to need to see like primo defense out of Mikal Bridges. We're going to need to see the defense that the Knicks acquired him for in this game, which I just frankly don't think we've quite seen so far this year. Now, there was a stat from the last game that players that were guarded by Mikal shot like, I want to say it was like 3 of 16 or something. It was a nice low number like that. So a good number in that regard with the individual defense. And how they shot when he was able to stay with them. But I don't think that that's the biggest issue for him. I think that in this particular game, what you're really going to be looking at is you're going to have Brook Lopez or Giannis Antetokounmpo coming up there to set a very hard screen, which they're good at doing. They're not, for as many complaints as we've had about like cat setting screens this year so far with like, oh, he slips them too often, whatever. You're not going to run into that with Brook and Giannis for the most part. They're just going to take that screen right into the body, and Mikal Bridges is going to have to work to slither around those, or just force an offensive foul by getting there quick enough that he catches Brook or Giannis while they're still moving. He's going to have to really be on top of it with getting around these screens, because if Lillard's shooting 50% from three, that he has the quickest, maybe the quickest other than Steph Curry trigger in the entire NBA on getting around a screen and getting immediately into his 3-point motion and making you pay for it. So you don't want to put him in a position where he's getting lots of open looks like that, because that's going to get ugly really fast. I think there's a chance that you're looking at like a 50-point Dame night in Madison Square Garden if that's the case. Like you can't play with fire like that. So I think that it's on Bridges to first off do that, first get around these screens, whatever. But I also think they're gonna, the Bucks are gonna try in those situations to force switches and get Cat on an island against Lillard too. I don't think you can really let that happen either. So you're gonna have to like work on very quick recoveries. So, if Bridges gets caught on a screen, Cat's going to have to be prepared to shade up onto him, get a hand up there, make sure that he can't get a three just long enough, and then have that timing right to when Brook releases or when Giannis releases or whoever releases, start getting your way down under the hoop to guard them. And Mikal's going to have to be very on top of like, okay, the screen's gone, get back to him immediately. I think that Lillard really has the chance, as much as I highlighted Giannis in the first segment, I think Lillard is probably the guy that has the most chance to influence this game, because I think that he has the most exploitable matchup here in Mikal Bridges, who has not been playing good to start the year. I think if I was going to draw up the overall assignments on this one, I sort of teased this in the last segment. I would have Mikal Bridges on Damian Lillard. I think I would put OG on Giannis. I would put Cat on Brook Lopez. I would put Josh Hart on the newly starting Andre Jackson Jr., if that sticks from the last game. And then I would have Jalen Brunson on Taurean Prince to start the game. I don't think that Prince is such a size mismatch with Brunson that he'll just be able to like pop threes right over him with no issue. Like I don't think that having Brunson on Taurean Prince means that you're basically saying, oh, well, we're going to make Taurean Prince beat us. Cause I mean, those of you with long enough term memories should know Taurean Prince lights up the Knicks. I don't know what it is. It's just one of his favorite teams to play, I guess. He consistently lights the Knicks up every time that they play them, especially from three. So don't want to tempt fate with that. But I think that Brunson could do a good enough job of ball denial and of just like, if it becomes a situation where he needs help, then you can, figure it out from there. But I don't think that there's an ideal matchup between, Andre Jackson Jr. or Taurean Prince. They're both about 6'6". You're going to have to put Brunson on one of them. So put him on the slightly more dangerous, but to my recollection, less mobile of the two, and then allow Josh Hart to be on the least dangerous guy on the floor. That way he can float around and be the guy that comes in for doubles and stuff. Like I think that you're really going to have him basically play free safety in this game, go around, try to blow up plays, try to blow up passing lanes, try to be the guy that comes over. Like if Giannis gets a one-on-one against OG and it looks like he's establishing position, have Josh come over real quick, try to get a hand in there, knock that ball loose. You know, if Damian Lillard is taking a screen and it looks like he's about to get over it and Cat's not going to get there in time, have Josh sprint over, try to get a hand up there, make Andre Jackson Jr. beat you. Like I know that might also be dangerous, a newly starting role player. He's got he's shooting okay from three this year. I think he's shooting like 35% or something like that. You don't want to leave anyone wide open in the NBA for sure, but I think that he's the guy that you can most be like, okay, if he beats us and wins this game for them, so be it. And I think for that reason, Josh Hart should be the guy on him to start. That way, if they're just giving it to Andre Jackson, then Josh Hart can tee him up and hopefully get the ball out of his hands. But that frees up Josh Hart to be able to, zip around and hopefully not get punished too much if the ball finds its way back to Jackson and Josh Hart is off helping on someone else. I guess we'll see how that goes. But hopefully that's the case. I also think that like when Deuce is in, that's probably his role as well. Although he'll probably, I would assume, unless he's in there with Mikal also, but even if he is in there with Mikal, I think you should probably have Deuce as the one-on-one assignment with Lillard as much as possible. So hopefully this is a Deuce like 28 to 30-minute game and he gets a good amount of time on Damian Lillard, because I do think that he's the most mobile. He is the most slithery on screens. He's the guy that I think I would trust the most to potentially guard up Dame Lillard and make this work for the Knicks. So I guess we'll see if that ends up happening. But Lillard definitely is scary right now, and the Knicks need to game plan as good as possible for that. I also think that there's one potential exploit that they could find on this Bucks defense. Not that the Bucks defense has been crazy or anything, but one thing that can make life a lot easier for a couple of Knicks stars, and that's attacking Brook Lopez. So I want to get into that in just a moment. But first, I got to remind you guys, this episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. And if I was looking for matchups in the NFL for this coming weekend, I'm feel like I'm not doing great with these NFL picks lately. I'm gonna, maybe this is just like a reverse jinx on the Jets or something that I've been doing. I've been picking against them for a few weeks now. I still don't have a ton of faith in them, if I'm being completely honest, even though they beat shorthanded Houston last week. They're currently listed as 1.5-point favorites over the Arizona Cardinals. So let me just say, I feel all right about the Cardinals plus 1.5 or just plus 108 to win. Plus 108 to win money line. I don't know. I would probably bet that. I don't know. I feel like the Jets have not been nearly as good as advertised on defense this year. I think there's a possibility of them getting burned by a mobile quarterback who has a number of good weapons, including Marvin Harrison Jr., who has not really had his like signature game yet this year. If there was ever a team to do it against, maybe it's the Jets. But hey, maybe I don't mean any of that. Maybe that's just me trying to reverse jinx it. I guess we'll see. We'll see if I'm right or horribly wrong. I hope to be horribly wrong. Anyway, you can get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet on FanDuel. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right, let's finish talking about this Bucks matchup. First one of the year for the Knicks. I think they will hopefully not have to face the Bucks like 800 times this year, like they did last year. So that's good. They might just trade the Bucks for the Sixers this year or something. With how the in-season tournament schedule has worked and all that, or the NBA Cup schedule and all that, which, by the way, I've already started devising a what is the NBA Cup episode for next week, just so that anyone who needs a refresher can get one. But for this game, let's talk about Brook Lopez. I think that one other thing that I think the Knicks could do in this game to help them out would be to attack Brook Lopez, get him out of the game as much as you can. I think we've seen so far this year that Cat can take advantage of smaller defenders on him when he's given the chance. So I think there's a great opportunity here. If you can get Lopez in foul trouble and force the Bucks to choose between having Giannis guard Cat or putting a much smaller guy on him, you then, if Giannis has to guard Cat, then there's the chance that Giannis gets in foul trouble as well. Um, or if you have a smaller guy on Cat, I think even when we saw like Dylan Brooks giving him problems to start things in the Rockets game, he figured it out eventually and just started scoring over Brooks at will. Because once he realizes, oh wait, I'm much taller than this guy, I can just hit jump hooks over him all day. He's pretty effective with that. And then he also is pretty good with shooting threes over much smaller defenders and stuff like that. So as quickly as you could potentially get, say, like Bobby Portis on him or something, who's not exactly super small, but is small enough, I think that it would make life a lot easier on Cat as a true 7-footer to get shots off over him. I think that's something you should definitely do. Now, getting Brook Lopez in foul trouble is not exactly an easy task. He is 75th percentile among bigs in foul percentage. So foul percentage is the amount of times that a player fouls on an opponent's play. So less than 3% of the time, Brook Lopez commits a foul when the opponent is running a play. So that's not great. I don't think that's going to be a super easy task, but I think there is a chance to use the Brunson and Cat pick and roll to try to get some good results in this game. And much like I was saying, like the Dame and Giannis or Brook pick and roll could be really dangerous for Milwaukee if the Knicks utilize it properly, which again, we saw like in the Miami game in particular when Cat went off, like they really started to figure things out with that pick and roll. And it feels like they've kind of gone away from it the last couple games. So if they really make a point of saying, hey, Cat's got to get up here for a screen like every single time down the floor. Brunson's got to utilize that screen every single time down the floor. Let's create these mismatches. Let's get these opportunities. I think they could do something really good in this game. Because either you have a few different options here. So if Brook doesn't show out to Brunson enough, which is what I was just talking about with, Cat's going to need to show out to Lillard if Bridges gets caught on a screen, if, whoever I don't know who the Bucks are going to put on Brunson. I would assume probably Andre Jackson Jr. It seems like that he would be the like taller defender that every team seems to want to put on Brunson lately. Like he seems to fit that bill. So it'd probably be him. But like if he doesn't get over the screen, then Brook doesn't shade up, then boom, you've got an easy 3-point attempt for Jalen Brunson that he should take all day and hopefully make a bunch of. Or they get forced into a switch. So if Brunson goes over the screen with gusto, as Clyde might say, and goes and starts going towards the hoop, and Jackson's not able to follow him, then you've got Brook in space against Jalen Brunson. I think that's something you should be trying to find as well. Try to get Brunson driving in there, potentially drawing a foul near the hoop. Like there's all kinds of different opportunities to make things work there. I could definitely see that being, something that the Knicks try to take advantage of. Or you get Cat going towards the hoop on the roll, and then that forces Lopez into like a scrambling situation where he's trying to figure out, do I stick with Brunson? Do I move over to Cat? Brunson could feed a pass to Cat, and then Cat gets a chance to draw a foul from Brook Lopez there as well. I think a lot of it probably hinges on who gets put on Brunson on D. Again, I think that's probably Andre Jackson Jr. Um, maybe it's Taurean Prince, but I think that Taurean Prince would just be fried chicken for Brunson. He's a good offensive player. He's not the strongest defensive player, especially not in like a man situation. So I don't think they would do that. And then it's like beyond that, they're not going to put Lillard on him unless they're crazy, because Lillard just is not a good defender. I would say that Lillard is a worse defender than Jalen Brunson is at this point. And like the Knicks are going to try to hide Jalen Brunson. The Bucks should definitely be trying to hide Lillard. I would assume that he probably ends up on Josh Hart. And they try to say like, hey, you're going to have to beat us, with Josh Hart making threes or driving to the hoop or whatever. Like that's going to be the matchup that they want. I think for sure it's probably going to be Andre Jackson Jr. on Jalen Brunson. So they got to see what they can do with that Brook matchup. But if they can find a way to get him in foul trouble, the Bucks don't have great depth as far as bigs. They're sort of similar to the Knicks in that way, where it's like they have their starting center and their good starting power forward. And then beyond that, except for the Bucks kind of just don't really have much solution for this long term either. The Knicks at least will be getting Mitchell Robinson and Precious Achiuwa back at some point. But the Bucks are not super deep at the center position and true big men that could guard Cat. And I think the Cat's going to really be the key in this game to making this whole thing work. A few other players I figured I'd highlight real quick. Gary Trent Jr., 3 of 19 field goals in his last 3 games, 1 of 10 from 3. Obviously, I've mentioned a few times he lost his starting job in the last game, and I think only played like 8 minutes. So seems like he's sort of on the outs already, which is crazy because I thought that was going to be one of the best value contracts in the NBA this year. But if he does get in, don't let him get hot. Don't let him make this his redemption arc game, which I feel like, I don't know. It always feels like that happens for someone against the Knicks at least once a year. So don't let this be Gary Trent's redemption game. Likewise, Brooke Lopez has been shooting pretty bad to start the year, too. I think he's shooting like 27% from 3. So if you're Cat, don't worry too much about guarding him super tight on the perimeter. Just get enough of a hand in his face. Make him prove that he can make a shot on you before you start going crazy, because the worst thing that could possibly happen is Cat committing dumb fouls on Brooke Lopez on the 3-point line, just based off of his career resume of being such a good 3-point shooter. So far this year, not working super great for him. So like, just give him just enough of a contest. I think that ought to be good. And then definitely get a body on Taurean Prince as much as you can. I mean, for all the things that Brunson gives up on defense, I think one thing that we can definitely say is he tries really hard and he is willing to get up in someone's body and really get a hand up there. So if he's willing to do that on Taurean Prince and that's his assignment, I think the Knicks could be okay, because I don't think that Taurean Prince has the length to just get off clean shots over Jalen Brunson all day without any repercussions if Brunson is playing him tight. So as long as he plays him tight, doesn't foul him, but keeps a body in front of him, I don't think Taurean Prince is like laterally quick enough either to like completely burn Brunson on a from the 3-point line, like just put the ball on the floor and drive right by him. I don't think that's going to be the case. So I think that could be a good matchup, but you definitely have to watch him like a hawk, because he's shooting the lights out so far this year. I think he's shooting uh, pretty well over 40%, if I'm not mistaken. I'm surprised I didn't write this number down because I was looking for that one. I'm actually going to look it up in real time here, just out of curiosity. So if we go to the Milwaukee Bucks, Taurean Prince this year is shooting 55.6% from 3 so far this year. So yeah, you don't want to let him get those looks. I think that's going to be key. He's one of those guys that, based off of his reputation against the Knicks in the past, could definitely burn you and turn this into a very not fun game very fast. So keep a body on him, keep a hand in his face early, and hopefully everything will will fall into place for the Knicks in this game. But until next time, and until we know the results of this game tomorrow, and I'll be podcasting about it, thank you all for listening, and I will talk to you all soon. Peace out, everybody.